said, I'm Major John Cloud of the Alabama State Troopers. This is an unlawful march. It will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your homes or to your church. And Jose Williams said, Major, give us a moment to kneel and pray. And the major said, troopers advance. And you saw these men putting on their gas masks. They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks and bull whips, trampling us with horses, releasing the tear gas. I was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. I had a concussion at the bridge. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die. 48 years later, I don't recall how I made it back across that bridge to the streets of Selma, back to that little church that we had left from. But I do remember being in the church, and more than 2,000 people on that side trying to get in to protest what had happened. And someone asked me to say something to the audience, and I stood up and said something like, I don't understand it. How President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam and cannot send troops to Selma, Alabama to protect people who desire to register to vote. The next thing I knew, I had been admitted to the Good Samaritan Hospital with 16 other people. 17 of us are hospitalized that day and that night. Early that Monday morning, March 8th, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Ralph Abernathy came by to visit us. And Dr. King said, don't worry, John, we will make it from Selma to Montgomery. And he was right. Hundreds and thousands of religious leaders came to Selma Tuesday, March 9th. Marched to the point where we have been beaten. That night, one young minister from Boston went out with 3 or 4 of his friends to get something to eat. Returned from the restaurant, they were attacked by members of the Klan. The minister was so severely beaten, he died 2 days later at a hospital in Birmingham. Eventually, President Johnson made one of the most meaningful speeches any American president had made in modern time. He invited Governor Wallace to come to Washington to meet with him. The governor did. The governor could not assure the president. So the president spoke to Congress, spoke to a joint session of the Congress, spoke to the nation. He started that speech off that night by saying, I speak tonight for the dignity of man and for the destiny of democracy. He went on to say, at time, history, and fate meet in a single place, and man in search for freedom. Said, so it was. More than a century ago at Lexington and at Concord, so it was at Appomattox. So it was last week in Selma, Alabama. He condemned the violence in Selma, introduced the Voting Rights Act, and near the end of the speech he said, and we shall overcome. I was sitting next to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the home of a local family in Selma as we listened and watched President Johnson. I looked at Dr. King's tear came down his face. We all cried a little to hear the President of the United States using the theme song of the Civil Rights Movement, and we shall overcome. He said to me again, so we'll make it from Selma to Montgomery. And on March 21st, 1965, rather than 600 people leaving Selma, more than 10,000 people, including Ralph Bunche. So there's a great picture, photograph in my office in Washington, with Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Bunche, 2 Nobel Peace Prize winners, a distinguished rabbi, a nun, several ministers coming across the bridge on the way toward Montgomery. And when we arrived in Montgomery several days later, it took us 5 days to walk. There were more than 25,000 people. The Congress debated the act, passed, and on August 6th, President Lyndon Johnson signed it into law. So when you go to Selma, you go to Birmingham, you go to Montgomery, you go to Selma. We travel down that highway on Sunday. You going to be traveling over a trail. We call it Highway 80. Well, some people gave a little blood to help create a more perfect union, to open up our democracy and let everybody come in. I've gone on for a long time, so some of you are tired and weary, and you heard me long enough. So if you have any